and that is also pulling demand for endangered or local wildlife, endangered species or wildlife.
Well, one of the facts about wildlife trafficking that many people don't realize is the human toll. Today at the Department of State in Washington for World Wildlife Day, we're talking about frontline defenders in their communities. Mike, you've been on the front line yourself. Can you share your experience and help us understand how this works in the field?
Yeah, so there's a drive for money in a lot of these rural communities, which is changing the dynamics of culture. It's eroding the moral fabric, and a lot of traditions are changing because now the village elders or the community members don't have the same aspirations. They want to get rich, they want to get rich fast. It has handed over power and money to gangs and more gang control. So in these local communities, there's a lot more violence. With violence and money comes the other side of the game, which is the weapons, the drugs, and the human trafficking is tied into this. So we see the complete erosion that is all focal around wildlife trafficking and how much money they can make from doing this. And since it is not they don't serve hard time for these sentences if they get caught. So it's a low risk, high payoff for them. If they get in trouble, if they get caught, if they have to sit and do time, it may be 6 months, 2 years, but it's going to be comfortable. You know, it's a total backward system right now when it comes to the crisis zones.
Well, before we move on to some of the online questions, I wanted to remind everyone to ask their questions in the chat space next to the video player or via Twitter using the hashtag World Wildlife Day. We've got an online question, and this one's for you, Juliana. In your current work, which includes combating wildlife trafficking in one of the world's most precious ecosystems, the Amazon, I mean, can you tell us why does it make a difference that there's wildlife trafficking in the Amazon? Why should the rest of the world be concerned about this?
Actually, I think that the rest of the world should be concerned about all biomes. The Amazon's precious, and it's suffering pressure from all sorts of sides. So there is the illegal timber, there is the cattle, there is the deforestation, but other environments, other biomes are also suffering from even more than the Amazon, such as the Atlantic forest, for example. But I think that we need to think about wildlife trafficking not only from the animal suffering perspective, but as a conservation, environmental conservation issue, because there are unpredictable impacts that can come from withdrawing these animals from nature, which can be even vary a lot and even bring species to the brink of extinction. And this can bring imbalances to entire ecosystems. So I think that we should be looking not just at the Amazon, but at several biomes. And I think that wildlife trafficking is just one side of this pressure that these ecosystems are suffering. And it's just one hand of the deforestation and lack of protection that they are under. So,
that's really, Mike. You know, you in some ways represent a different side of the frontline defender story. You were moved to action by what you saw happening in the field, and you went out and I understand you took an anti-poaching boot camp. I know a lot of people who are looking at this, they're very concerned, but maybe they can't go out and do what you did, put themselves on the front line in such a direct way. What do you suggest people can do in their own lives to help with wildlife trafficking?
You know, I get asked this question all the time, and a lot of people feel like they can't connect, but with the internet and the way social media works these days, everyone has a role to play in this. From educating yourself on the topics that are going on, all the issues involved, to educating your friends and family. You can throw fundraisers, you can help with elected officials and local policies, because the United States plays a major role in this. We were, up until recent laws, one of the major stopovers for ivory and rhino horn, and we are just now closing those markets. So the impact is a global scale, but can start at home, and it can be as little as you know something about drones, you know something about communications, or you have somebody who's connected to law enforcement and maybe they have a new idea. Really, you got to think outside the box, but pretty much every application can be used for this because the problem is so global. that we need all pieces to be plugged in so we can make a change at the end.
Yes, please.
I think that also people need to first and foremost understand that, for example, wild animals are not supposed to be pets. Why follow these fashion trends? And understand that even when you buy something that looks legal, it can be can have entered the legal supply chain, but can be poached or have an illegal source. And I think that people are unaware that the next door pet shop may have animals from illegal origins. And that's a problem that it's next door, it's here. And consumers here in the West, in Brazil, in big cities, may be supporting these entire illegal supply chains. So I think that first we have to think, why do we have this desire of owning something that belongs to a wild species and should be in the wild? And second, really think about that there are so many ways that dishonest people will do to bypass laws and regulations, that even when something is completely legal, may not be sustainable, and when it looks legal, may not be completely legal. So I think we should be really aware of our responsibility as consumers concerning the supply chain of what we're buying.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So Mike, I mean, can you walk us through this? How do these products get into a pet shop or get into a boutique? What does that look like?
So from the ground level, you're going to see somebody from the local community who's connected to this system somehow. So someone approaches them and says, I hear you're the best person in this habitat, you're the best hunter. What if I gave you $10,000 in this rifle and you bring me back a rhino horn? And that pressure is stepping over from somebody from Southeast Asia who's saying, I need this, and so you're going to get it from me. And if you don't, there's going to be a consequence, or I'm going to go to the next guy who can. And so then it goes to the next level over, all the way back to the demand market, where there's somebody who's using it at home who may not understand the implications of what they're doing, just like Juliana's saying, is like, if the end user or the purchaser, it's home for them. So someone who's in Hanoi may not realize that they caused the death of people and rhinos and corruption through government officials and embassies throughout the list, if just to get this end product. So they may not be realizing how that's going on, where it literally started from home on one side and impacted home all the way across the continent, or the world, and everybody in between was affected. So causing, on the front line for rhino poachers and ivory poachers, either the death of rangers and rhinos, or the death of poachers and the impact to the local community and causing a divide, or just the criminal network itself building a stronger base, taking over the local communities, then all the way to the other side, where even in the home communities of the user market, the gang members and the corrupt officials are getting money illegally, and they are strong-arming the rest of the world for their tactics, and they are not doing it for the betterment of people or animals. It's short-sighted profit and greed.
So Juliana, when you listen to that story, what do you think have you seen a success story in changing people's consumer behavior and tamping down demand? How do you think you go about getting people to see this problem in a holistic way?
I have to be an optimistic, otherwise I would not be doing this kind of work. I think it is possible, but it takes a long time. It is my personal experience, and it may sound a little cliche, but the work with kids is the one that has the best outcomes. So until